Russian top general of the chemical force eliminated in the center of Moscow. Justice or Budanov's anchor here? Trump's choice for national security advisor Waltz promised to find a lasting peace for Ukraine after stopping the Russian war. All this and more in our today's episode. The head of Russia's chemical forces and another high-ranking serviceman were killed in Moscow by an explosion of a scooter near their own car, right in the center of the Russian capital. Ironic. Well, the dark side is a pathway to many abilities, including scooter assassination. General Igor Kirillov was charged by Ukrainian prosecutors for the use of banned chemical weapons against Ukrainian soldiers. According to the MASH Telegram channel, the explosion occurred at around 6 a.m. local time when a service car arrived for Kirillov. The pro-state outlet Kommersant reported that the general and his aide were killed by a homemade explosive device of around 300 grams of a TNT equivalent. Russia's investigative committee began investigating the case as terrorism. Two undisclosed sources told the Russian RBC news agency that the investigators consider Ukraine's involvement the most likely scenario. Retribution for crimes is inevitable, as security service sources told the Kyiv Independent publication. Moscow's forces have escalated their use of gas attacks against Ukrainian troops, as revealed by an investigation in August. Ukrainian soldiers and officers interviewed admitted that this tactic has proven effective at times, enabling Moscow to capture positions intact without resorting to their destruction. In October, the UK imposed sanctions on Kirillov and his unit for deploying chemical weapons on the battlefield in Ukraine. According to Meduza publication, which is a Russian opposition media, Kirillov was held senior roles within Russia's radiation, chemical, and biological defense forces since 2012, and has served as the department's chief since 2017. Possibly, gas attacks in Syria were also conducted with his direct influence.
Igor Kirillov was the head of the Radiation, Chemical and Biological Defense Forces or Protection Forces of the Russian Armed Forces. Kirillov is known for holding briefings of the Russian Defense Ministry since 2023, in which, among other things, he spoke about some sort of so-called military biological activities of the United States in Ukraine. Yuri Resheto, Deutsche Welle's Riga bureau chief.
Well, this elimination can surely be an operation of the Ukrainian security service, or not even Ukrainian. Who knows how many enemies the man could make during his fruitful service time in the chemical forces of Russia. Also, Kirillov was the one behind official claims of Anglo-Saxon biochemical laboratories in Ukraine narrative of the Russian propaganda. The hand of Budanov or the hand of Mossad, we will never know apparently. US President-elect Donald Trump's team is reportedly exploring ways to bring a permanent end to Russia-Ukraine war, as they call it, rather than implementing a temporary ceasefire, according to Trump's pick for National Security Advisor Mike Waltz in a December 15th interview with CBS News. Set to take office on January 20, 2025, Trump has emphasized his goal of quickly resolving the conflict, but has refrained from detailing specific strategies. Proposals under consideration include delaying Ukraine's NATO membership in exchange for military support and freezing the war along the current front lines. When questioned about the potential restrictions the incoming administration might impose on Ukraine's use of US weaponry, Waltz noted, "A blank check just isn't a strategy," suggesting that unchecked military aid risks prolonging the war indefinitely. Trump recently criticized the Biden administration's decision to allow Ukraine to use US supplies ATACMS missiles to strike targets within Russian territory. However, the president-elect clarified that he does not intend to abandon Ukraine, instead proposing the use of US aid as leverage to bring Russia to the negotiation table. And this is in line with the narrative that if Russia will be reluctant to give up its war, then Ukraine will get everything it needs and fast to make Russia give up.
What does success look like in line with our interests? How do we end the war? Who's at the table? How do we drive all sides to the table? And what's the framework for an agreement? These are the questions we're working on with Trump's exceptional team. Mike Waltz, future national security advisor under the Trump administration in the United States.
On December 7th, Trump met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and French President Emmanuel Macron in Paris to address the ongoing bloody war. While the meeting did not result in concrete proposals yet, Trump advocated for an immediate ceasefire, whereas Zelensky reiterated the need for strong security guarantees. Votes also revealed that since Trump's re election, his team has initiated discussions with European allies and Ukrainian officials on achieving a resolution that would restore stability, halt the violence, and establish a lasting peace, rather than a temporary pause. Hungarian officials have a different position and claim that Kyiv rejected a proposal for a Christmas ceasefire and a prisoner exchange with Russia. However, Ukrainian officials stated that Hungary never formally discussed such an idea with Ukraine, so this is a manipulation once again. Orban has maintained close ties with Moscow throughout the full-scale invasion, opposing military support for Ukraine while welcoming Trump's re-election. And we in Ukraine seem to be optimistic as always and hope for the best. And for the guest today, we have Oleg Savitsky in the UATV studio from the Razum Wisdom Foundation. Oleg, greetings.
Hi.
Well, I'd like to ask you about the recent sanctions package against Russia because some people are saying that those sanctions are not working, but we see that that pressure on the Russian economy with rising inflation, rising interest rates, and the effect known as stagflation, when everything produced in the military complex goes right into Ukraine, into the war, and gets burnt in the furnace of war. What do you think about the recent pressure on Russian
Well,
economy?
yeah, I think this new sanctions package is quite significant, especially given the circumstances that it's being adopted during Hungarian presidency in the European Council, which is quite an obstacle for negotiations and for moving forward with sanctions. Hungary was blocking many efforts before, and now when these sanctions adopted, it's a symbol that the European Commission actually has leverages over Hungary and Slovakia and can override their opposition and force adoption of new sanctions, even when Hungary is nominally chairing the process. So I think it's a positive move, especially given that a quite significant number of oil tankers was designated by individual sanctions. It's 52 ships, which is significant, and it is much more than in any previous sanctions packages against Russian shadow fleet. For example, UK a few months ago they adopted package against 18 ships, and now EU is moving much faster, which is a positive development. But just for comparison, the estimated number of Russian oil tankers, which are part of this shadow fleet, which operates beyond internationally recognized insurance and technical standards and legal system in general, it's more than 600 vessels. And even this sanctions package is removing only less than 10% of Russian shadow fleet.
We have seen the horrible consequences of the oil tanker or oil freighter in the Black Sea, where several ships at once of Russian origin have sank, and the oil spills are tremendous. They've reached already the Krasnodarsky Krai. They're poisoning right now the Ukrainian Black Sea and the temporarily occupied Crimea. And maybe that is a real danger for European seas because these vessels of the Shadow Fleet, they are not maintained, they are invisible, they are not insured.
They are not invisible most of the time. They still have to operate technically within the basic standards of International Maritime Organization, and they would not be able to pass through straits and territorial waters of new member states with turned off transponders, but they occasionally turn off their transponders to do, for example, ship-to-ship transfers of oil to mask its origin. But generally, I think now there is a full awareness about the mounting risk for EU member states, Norway, UK. They recognize that it's only a question of time when the disaster of the scale that happened in Kerch Strait will happen in their territorial waters, because Russian ships, they are 30, 40 years old. They operate beyond any technical standards. And if such spill occurs in European territorial waters or UK or Norway, the cost would be tremendous. The taxpayers of those countries would have to cover billions of euro in cost of remediation and decontamination of coastal areas.
And the unavailability of other sources or the seeming unavailability for European contracts with Russian Gazprom and oil companies, they seem to demonstrate that no, we are abstraining from Russian oil. It's dirty, it's bloody because of the war, but still some companies are buying it. Why is it so hard for such countries, maybe as Austria, Hungary, and Slovakia, to shift from Russian energy sources to other sources, probably from the United States, from Azerbaijan, other countries that produce oil and gas?
Well, business relationships, especially in this such strategic area, they are quite politicized, and that's why oil and gas deals are often made with the presence of highest level officials like presidents, prime ministers. And this is indeed a question of geopolitics as well. So those countries, they made decisions to make those strategic ties with Russia long ago, and they are not ready to to break this connection and build alternative ones with some Middle East countries or United States or alternative suppliers of oil, which are actually available. And now there is a surplus of oil in the international market. And the OPEC countries, they actually can produce oil much cheaper than Russia. Well, I often say that the key to Putin's defeat lies within the oil market. So if the United States, for example, would found an agreement with Saudi Arabia and few other key producers to decrease the oil price in the world market, to dump the price, and at the same time enforce strong sanctions and prevent Russian oil exports, Putin's regime would just collapse in weeks' time, because oil is the bloodline of Russian war economy. But unfortunately, I think the most tragic legacy of Biden administration and his biggest mistake was insufficient enforcement of the price cap and not consistent policy against Russian oil trade.
Well, oil is the blood of war after all. It has always been in the 20th century. And let us all hope that this blood will be cut off from the Russian war machine. Thank you very much, Oleg, for being a studio today. So that was Oleg Savitsky, strategic advisor of the Razum Foundation. So that was Oleg Savitsky, strategic advisor of the Razum Foundation in UATV studio, commenting on the oil sanctions against Russia in the latest 15th package. Well, that's all for today. Remember to support our channel by hitting that like and subscription button to help us deliver news of the free world for you directly from Ukraine. Stay safe and don't let propaganda win. Goodbye.